Hi everybody, Puffin here. Thanks for watching. If you've seen any of my videos before when I'm talking to you through my phone, I just wanted to point out that they're probably mostly political, and this one's going to be semi-political, but I wanted to go a little bit beyond politics with this. I feel like it's an important message. I feel like the political stuff has been important all this time, remains important, it's going to be important. And if you've seen any of my stuff, it's all about trying to raise awareness and get people to engage in hopefully creative ways to address all the problems we're facing. And just to sum up, I'm super leftist. I'm not going to try to argue about it. I'm super righteous about being super leftist. But beyond politics, or including some politics, just to discuss this, just to kind of set it up. We've all been dealing with this Trump administration, and it's been a lot, and it's been overwhelming, and there's been a lot of injustice in it. And I don't know if he was quoting someone else, but I heard it from Dr. Cornel West, who said, "Justice is love expressed publicly." And we've lacked a lot of justice and lacked a lot of public expression of love. And in the absence of that, or in the opposite of that, in the face of the opposite of that, in the face of hatred and evil in our country and government, it's been, an obsession. It's become obsessive and consuming to people to think about it, which is one thing you hear a lot of relief now that Trump is gone from people saying they're just glad not to think about it. But on the one hand, it's a tool of fascism to overwhelm you with stuff, to overwhelm the populous people with stuff so that you turn off and to try to tune it all out, try just to not think about it. And that's one reason I always want to encourage people to engage creatively. And I just want to say that up front because that is always my message, but it can go too far. And there are times to not be political, times to leave politics aside. And I feel kind of like the last person to say that. So I really wanted to word this correctly. But it all came from a comment my little brother made when we were talking. One thing I'm grateful for of the pandemic and quarantine and everything is I've gotten back in touch with some of my family and had more conversations with them. But then in a conversation not too long ago, my little brother told me that he was sick of how much we'd ended up talking about Trump and all the bad stuff going on. And while, of course, I believe these conversations are necessary to have, the point I want to make here is that they're not always necessary to have, and that especially one particular instance where it might be better to avoid those conversations and not waste the time on those conversations is if you can have a better, deeper, more personal conversation with someone. And so the points I want to make about the politics and discussing politics is always do it in every way and as creative and humorously as you can do it, because humor is one of the best weapons and words are one of your best weapons for defeating fascism. Just always address it as much as you can, but keep in mind that there's going to be so many opportunities to address it. Like, you're going to be talking to these people on the internet about it and random other people. And when there's people that you care about, or even people that you could care about, your neighbors and people you're associated with, to allow politics to get into the way of just a basic good human interaction is unfortunate. And especially to allow it to get into the way or take the place of what could be really deeper personal conversations with people that you know better or care about is especially unfortunate. And so while we all feel the need to make these points to get justice done in this absence of justice, to achieve a communal love in the absence of, in a neglect and deprivation of love situation that we've been in. And it's great to see that coming together, see people, making this happen, bringing that world together after this, this a traumatic time. I just want to point out that all along, being so consumed by this stuff, we miss out on even more meaningful personal times and moments. And we want to try to avoid that and keep in mind that while justice and injustice are very important causes, and it's the thing that people just feel most strongly about, honestly, it's just something that everyone has a very innate sense of justice. And they obviously get turned in different ways to what it means and how they interpret it. But while the quest for justice to express love publicly is so important, especially now, expressing love privately and saying the things that you can only say to that person are always important. And we can get so caught up in this stuff that we forget or miss out on those opportunities. So I really want to warn against that, or to encourage people to also look past the politics for any chance to have a deeper personal human connection or communion with someone that you do know and love well, maybe getting back in touch with somebody that you know and love or have lost in touch with, or even to be able to get more in touch with somebody that you don't know, a neighbor, an acquaintance. And so I want to encourage love on a personal level to help guide and triumph over hatred, of course, but to help guide our love in the public sphere too. So, please continue all the things you can do for activism, for raising awareness, for justice. Please continue to do those things, but also remember that, hey, one reason we're so caught up in how much of that there is to do is because there is so much of it, and there will be more to do. You can take a break. You can put it aside. It's really dangerous to be consumed watching the news all the time, or even like posting and addressing stuff all the time, or even constant activism all the time. It's good to take a break sometimes to be able to do other things, to be able to enhance other relationships and have private love more, because we're missing a lot of that too. It's not just the public love we're missing our private love and our private relationships, and having all this stuff crowd that out has been one of the tragedies of living in a fascist regime, in a corrupted system. Now, what I want to say that is kind of political is we do have a corrupted system, but it could be a good system. And that's why I say it's beyond you can go beyond politics with this, because even in a corrupted system, there are good people within it and involved, and people who are well-intentioned, maybe not even as good as they could be. It could be improved. And the one thing I wanted to say, or as I mentioned to my brother in those conversations, was that there is a possibility of not thinking about the government all the time, or not thinking about, the leader all the time. And not because you've been, duped into ignoring them, but because you don't have to think about them all the time because they're doing good. Now, you have to let that sink in for a second, because it's like so foreign to our mindset that government could be good. And I'm just, throwing it out there, hoping it'll ripple out there into the world. Government could actually be good. Maybe it's been good in the past, but government can be really, really good. And just to the point that no one has to worry about what they're doing, because what they're doing is good. I know that sounds just so radical, but I want to get it out there and let it sink into some people's minds and spread that idea around, because it's totally possible. It's what I believe in as a believer in Oz as the future. And I have so much more to say about Oz. I'll say that for another video. But the last thing I wanted to say is that all these efforts for justice that have seemed thwarted, that have built up this big backlog of angst and pressure and suffering, and everybody wanting to address this, while that has built up and just increased, it got to the point, I was waiting for Biden to walk into the White House, to make sure he made it all the way in safely. Like waiting for someone you love to walk in the front door when you drop them off or something. Like just every last moment wanting to make sure that it all went through. And all that pressure built up to the very last and turned into this, this huge pressure that's still being, like released and relieved in different ways. And people are going to feel more relieved when some of these politicians jeering it are off the streets and stuff like that. But the point is that while that pressure is built up all this time, and now it's starting to be relieved, we've all been so caught up in it, especially people who have been involved and maybe get over involved or consumed by it. We're so caught up in it that we want to keep at it that hard, and we should. People, but my real point here is that people will. It's a crowd-sourced effort now. So everybody's doing different parts. Everybody's helping out in different ways they can, in some amazing, creative ways. And you can let it go because there's plenty of other people working on it too. Don't let it go completely, but you can let it go sometimes to take advantage of a different type of moment with a person, to not let politics cause a problem, but through humor, through changing the subject, through anything, find a human connection with someone that's beyond or beneath politics. And again, I only think one politics are correct. I think save the planet. This is what we're trying to do: save people, save the planet, save the country. We can all ultimately agree on that. People do like the planet, whether they're brave enough to admit it or not. But we really do have a common goal, and even can, through discussion, find the common path to get there. So discussion's always good. I'm just saying that we are so caught up in it and are in such desperate need of it, and we're finally starting to meet that need, but we're in such need of getting these things talked about and worked out that we get over obsessed with it, over consumed by it. And if we miss out on chances to talk to people and have more personal, loving, private love types of connections, and love in all its forms, then that's another way they've won. So loving yourself, loving others is always a revolutionary act in a system that's built or corrupted by hatred. And we can love the system. We can get a system that we love too. But again, this was supposed to be beyond politics, just to remind people that we are working it all out together. And thanks everybody for doing your part. But don't let our habits of being focused on this so much get in the way of some other things we can focus on, like good personal relationships with people. So hopefully this will have given some people some good thoughts, and you'll remember them when you have the chance to explore those pathways and not get dragged down by the division of politics and hate and fear. And remember love and hope and unity, and that we are all in this together. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned.